Well, good morning, good morning. We are delighted to be in God's house. If you are, say I am.
Amen.
If you are rejoicing today to be a child of the kingdom, say I am.
Amen.
We come today as God's people because He bids us to come. He invites us. I love that word. God invites us. He doesn't make us come. He doesn't force us to come. God, in His tender mercy and great love for us as His children, He invites us. He calls to us in the midst of our living, in the moments of our lives, and He wants us in His house, so He bids us to come. Because in His house, listen, in God's house, He opens up His heart to us. He shows us what's inside of His will and His purpose and His plan for us as His children. So many times we'll think in our lives that, well, if God would just show me. Well, the truth is, loved ones, most of the time in our living, most of the time, God is showing us. Or more specifically, He is speaking through His Word exactly what He wants for us. And so this morning, part of what He wants for you and me is this hour, this time in His presence, in His house, so that He can speak to our hearts and lives what only He can speak to our hearts and lives. You know, we're told that we will live the best if we live one day at a time. We'll just stop there and let that sink in. Since I was a little kid, but especially as an adult and with my wife in particular, I'm told over and over again, I bet you are too, it's always best to live one day at a time. We'll live just today. I'm going to focus on the hours God has given me today. I'm going to wake up this morning and put my feet on the floor and put my socks on and my shirt on and start my day. And I'm going to live through the hours of today. And today, now listen, today I'm going to focus on what? Just today. I'm going to enjoy the blessings He's given. I'm going to live through the difficulties that might come my way. I'm going to rejoice in how kind God is to me. I'm going to live through whatever comes in the fabric of this day. But I'm going to live just today. All of us, preacher included, would say, really good advice. I get it. I agree. And yet, preacher included, most of us, if not all of us, maybe I should say all of us, we all struggle to live just today. Some of it isn't, and I'll mention this to you this morning, some of it is all of us live to some degree in the course of this day with our past keeping us company. We're almost all at some point during the day, unless we're really, really tied up, we are thinking about or concentrating on or focused on or remembering some things about the past. That's just the character of our humanity. More than that, though, this living in just today is a challenge, is a struggle for you and me, because we can't just kind of get to the end of this day and stop there. All the time in our lives, depending on how busy we are, all the time there is the press of tomorrow. There's what's going to happen tomorrow. What's going on in my life tomorrow? What will be part of my tomorrow? What am I facing tomorrow? So we'll live through the course of a day. I do. I bet you do too. We'll live through the course of the day, and it'll get to be late afternoon or early evening, and the day will be slipping away, and we'll do our normal things. We'll have dinner, and we'll spend time with loved ones, and we'll watch a little television, and pretty soon we'll slip off to that place that we call sleep, our place of rest. Now, see if this sounds familiar, but because we struggle to live in just today, we don't hardly make a dent in our pillow. We don't hardly ruffle the sheets before tomorrow starts crowding in. We're thinking about, we're worried about, we're concentrating on, I don't think the pastor's the only one, but I'll use me and you use you. Pretty soon the sheets are all tangled up because you can't go to sleep. You know why not? Because you're thinking about, you're concentrating on, you're all tied up in tomorrow. It's what's going to happen at work. It's what's going on with the kids. It's a doctor's appointment that's coming up. It's how I'm going to fill my hours tomorrow. It's all this stuff of tomorrow creeping in. And so we get to this place where we think, oh my gosh, if I could just go to sleep, if I could just have a switch on the side of my head and reach up and flip it off. If God would have been so kind. But of course He didn't give us a switch, and so most of us, I'll give you mine, you have yours. Most of us will spend at least part of the evenings that we go to bed to rest, and we will be struggling with what's coming tomorrow. Anything but at peace. I've been a pastor for 33 years, and this is still true. Every Saturday night I'm tangling up my sheets. I go to bed and church is coming in the morning. Now, 33 years, you'd think after a while, right? No. I go to bed. I left the Kentucky game early last night. I go to bed. I'm going to go to sleep. It's Saturday night, though, and I am all wrapped up about what's going to happen on Sunday. What might happen? What it's going to be like? Who's going to show up? Well, I could go on and on, but I won't. But you hear me. Anything but peaceful. So here's the question. How do you and I, what does it take for you and I to get to the time of night when we could just lie down in peace? Especially given the realities of our lives. Is it, do you suppose it is, how much we can control? Because in so many ways we'd like to believe that's true. If I knew that everything about my tomorrow was going to be in my hand to control, to decide, to shape, to make what I wanted it to be, man, I could lay down and go to sleep like right now. If I knew that everything about tomorrow, whatever it is, the big and the small and everywhere in between, was going to be in my hands, that I get to decide because I'm in control of those things, whatever they are, boy, I could lay down and go to sleep right now. Or how about this? Is it how small the challenges of tomorrow are? In other words, if what lies ahead of me tomorrow is not mountains, but just little bumps in the road, or the road is completely smooth, because if I know that, oh gosh, I can lay down and go to sleep right now. I can be at peace absolutely right now. If somehow I could know that tomorrow the road would be smooth before me, that tomorrow life would be a snap for me, oh gosh, then I could lay down at night and be at peace. And yet here's the truth, loved ones. Listen. What's true is that there will always be lots of things in your life and mine that we can't control. And we will always be faced by great big challenges. After all, we are imperfect people. And we live in a fallen world. And so in the course of our lives, because we're imperfect, because we're sinful human beings, the list of things that you and I can't control today or tomorrow is so long we couldn't even begin to write it down. Because this world is so screwed up by sin, you know this to be true. There will be challenges. Before you and I, in our sight, in our eyes, they will be mountains. Sometimes we'll step into a day and you know it's all just like straight up. There will be times in our lives where it just looks like, so, listen, if the formula really is, as long as I have control, or at least most control, or as long as there's hardly any challenges, then I can be at peace, and I can lie down, and I can go to sleep. If that's the formula, you hear me this morning, we will never get there. We'll spend all of our lives with rumpled sheets and sweaty pillows and great consternation in our hearts and lives. When I was young, there was absolutely nothing wrong with me physically. Nothing. Well, one of the things was, of course, we took that for granted that was the case. It was like you, John. Young, had a head of hair. Man, it was all working. And I thought, those people who complain about going to the doctor, what's wrong with them? What are they afraid of? And then the years come creeping up. And I learned what the doctor looks like face to face. And I'm thinking, oh, now I get why I couldn't sleep last night. And we could go through a list that is as long as my arm of that over and over and over again. So listen, for you and I, real peace, the lay down in bed at night and go to sleep peace comes, for you and I, it comes only in being safe in the Lord. Hear me this morning. This is how He does it in your life and mine. God controls what we can't. Of all the things of your tomorrow and mine that are way beyond our capability, our ability, our strength, our wisdom, our our wherewithal, all those things in your life and mine that we can't possibly. Every single one of them is in and under the control of the creating and redeeming God. Every one of them. All the things that keep you and I awake at night because, oh my gosh, don't keep God awake. This one who is always awake holds them in his hand, shapes them by his will, holds them in his purpose. God is not only never surprised, he is absolutely in control. And listen, and every challenge that we face is never a challenge that is too hard for him. All the things that the world would dish out, all the things that might be part of our path tomorrow, God is not only not surprised, listen, they're never too hard for him. From our perspective, they may look like mountains. From God's perspective, they're molehills. From our perspective, they may look like something we would never be able to get through. From God's perspective, there's simply these choices that he makes in the path of his children. Every single one of them in his hand. He is bigger than, stronger than. And so in your life and mine, listen to it. In the Lord, listen, in the Lord we are saved. And his kindness and his goodness and his care for us. And I'll tell you something, loved ones, that safety in your life and mine is such a gift. It blesses our days. It blesses our nights. Did you know that we, as his children through Christ, we live every single day under the power of the cross? And hear what that means. It means that sin doesn't set the agenda for our lives. God's grace does. So why am I struggling at night? Why is this such a hard thing for me? Because in my humanity, in our humanity, somehow I've come to the point of thinking that what's going to happen tomorrow is going to be the result of who I am or what the world is or what dumps into my path just by luck or chance or fate. Listen, none of that is true. As children of the kingdom, claimed by the Father through his Son Jesus, every single part of our tomorrow is determined by, set by, shaped by his grace. And I'll repeat for you, God is not surprised. So everything he chooses about our tomorrow is going to be chosen out of love, an eternal plan for us, a kindness and grace that from our perception may not always appear that way, but because of his holy word and promise is always that way. That's true today. Listen. And it will be true for all of our tomorrows too. God will not let his children be overwhelmed by our sin nor overrun by our world. He will not. So I'm laying in bed last night. Turned the sound down on the Kentucky game. I'm going to go to sleep. And I'm thinking about this morning. Only for once, by God's grace, I'm thinking about it differently. Instead of, and this is God's grace and only God's grace, instead of worrying how many of you would show up today, or how the preaching would go, or whether Bible class would be all right, have I covered all the ground? Instead of, I just laid there and I closed my eyes and I said, Lord, this has to be yours. This has to be yours. The next thing I knew, Renee was shaking me and saying, do you want to hear the outcome of the Kentucky game? So there is for you and I, beloved children of the kingdom. This truth, today will pass, and tonight will come again. As it does, we know we are God's people. He's taking care of us and all we need. So this, loved ones, this can be our word of faith. In peace, I will both lie down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, make me to dwell in safety on this morning in his house. This is the good news. If you would rise, please.